You're headed to Disney World and figuring out where to eat, but you have over 200 restaurants to choose from. So how do you weed out the ones that aren't for you? Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Yep, over 200 restaurants. If you count counter service restaurants, you're into the 300s, and they're all totally different. Different doesn't mean bad, but it means that some will make sense for you and your family, and some just won't. We've narrowed down which restaurants you should 100% skip in Disney World depending on what atmosphere, menu, and vibe you're looking for on your next Disney World trip. Now, here's a little piece of important information. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so not all of these restaurants are open while I'm recording this. You'd think that shouldn't matter all that much to you since these are places you can skip anyway, but how this really works, in case you're new to our YouTube channel, is that you might actually be intrigued to try some of these. So if you're interested in any of the spots I talk about today and want to try them out, be sure to check if they're open first. We keep a running list of all the restaurants that are open and closed in Disney World. Since I don't really know when you're watching this, hi again if you're from the future, I want to make sure you're as prepared as possible to get into the restaurants you want to dine in Disney World. All right, here we go. Our first category of restaurants you should skip in Disney World is if you're looking for restaurants to bring the kids to. Now, obviously, a lot of people go to Disney World have kids, but not all restaurants are kid approved in Disney World. So a few of the ones you'll want to skip when you go to Disney World when you're bringing your kids to the restaurant. Victoria and Albert's, obviously, this is the signature super fanciest restaurant in Central Florida, basically. This is at the Grand Floridian Resort, and kids under 10 are not allowed here. Kids 10 and up are allowed. And I know some families that have taken their kids there to sort of learn how to dine in a fancy restaurant. So if your kid is mature and kind of a foodie, then that's a great opportunity for you. But kids under 10 is a no-go. Also want to talk about STK. STK is in Disney Springs. It's a steakhouse, obviously. It is a chain restaurant. The atmosphere is very clubby, especially at night. It is a loud music center. There's a DJ going on. The vibe is very date night. So if you're going to go to STK with your kids, I suggest taking them during the day for lunch, say, or you can also ask to eat upstairs because the upstairs room at STK is a little less kind of clubby and has less of that vibe. Now, you also want to make sure you're not taking your kids, if they happen to be night owls, to the Edison after about 10 o'clock. After 10 p.m., the Edison is 21 and up. There's also often a $10 cover charge after 10 p.m. for their late night entertainment. Also, another one not to take your kids to, Trader Sam's Grotto over there at Polynesian Village Resort. Trader Sam's is a bar and lounge, and kids are usually completely welcome at bar and lounge, but there is an age requirement at Trader Sam's. After 8 p.m., you must be 21 or over to enter. So where should you take your kids instead? Well, pretty much anywhere else in Disney World, right? But here are some recommended spots that your kids are going to love. T-Rex and Rainforest Cafe, of course, those are the restaurants that the food isn't really anything to write home about. It's overpriced and not very good, but the atmosphere, T-Rex, of course, is a dinosaur restaurant. Rainforest Cafe is going to have a lot of jungle animal animatronics, and kids always love those, obviously. Sci-Fi Dine-In, that's a super fun one for kids because they get to eat in a convertible car. They get to watch movies while they eat. And what's also fun about that for kids is that they get to sit in a different row from their parents. And so it's kind of like they're all by themselves, which is kind of cool for them. Be Our Guest Restaurant, of course, that is going to be a favorite of any Beauty and the Beast fans. And of course, Character Dining, Garden Grill, Storybook Dining at Artist Point, Cinderella's Royal Table. Those were made for kids. It's perfectly fine if you want to go there without kids as well, but Character Dining is basically kind of required by the unofficial laws of Disney World if you go there with your kids. All right, the next category we're going to talk about, you're on a budget. Okay, we're all on a budget in Disney World, but how much of a budget is the question we're going to talk about if you're trying to really keep your dining costs low. If you're on a budget, the category of restaurants you need to skip in Disney World are those signature dining restaurants, quote unquote. That's Disney speak for fancy restaurant. These are going to probably run you, the entrees are going to be the low end $30, at the high end spend, $100, depends on what you get. There's often a dress code. So this, of course, is going to break the budget. This is good for once in a while date night kind of thing. But if you eat at a signature restaurant every night, you are not going to stay under budget. So those include places like California Grill at the Contemporary, Narcoossee's, Citrico's, Victoria & Albert's at Grand Floridian. Morimoto Asia over there in Disney Springs is actually a signature restaurant. So there are quite a few of them. If you're looking at the list of restaurants in Disney World and it says signature dining, just cross it off your list if you're looking to go on a budget. Instead, here are some table service restaurants that are very, very budget friendly and delicious and well worth your dollar. Plaza Restaurant in Magic Kingdom, Beaches and Cream over there in Beach Club Resort, Trails End at Fort Wilderness, The Fountain over there at the Dolphin Resort. And then, of course, you can do counter service. Counter service or fast food in Disney World is always going to be less expensive, but there are some high-end fast food locations. Satuli Canteen over there in Animal Kingdom is a great option for high-end eats that aren't crazy expensive, not going to break the bank. And we actually have a whole video about counter service restaurants that are better than table service restaurants here on the channel, so you can check that out for other recommendations. All right, next category. You like peace and quiet. Okay, you like peace and quiet. It's okay that you're still going to Disney World. There'll be a lot of places that aren't quiet, but there will be a lot of places that are, and we're going to help you out with that. But if you're looking for peace and quiet, if you want kind of a chill vacation, do not go to these restaurants. Chef Mickey's, that is in the Contemporary Resort. It is a character meal. It is in the middle of a very cavernous, the center of Contemporary Resort, and so it's just going to be real loud, and it's louder than really any other restaurant in Disney World, so that's not a good place if you're looking for peace and quiet. Hoop-de-doo review, if we're talking about places that aren't open right now. That, of course, is at Fort Wilderness. That's the dinner show. The whole thing about that is noise. Lots of singing, lots of scraping of washboards. It is cacophonous. Is that a word? I don't know. So that's a place you want to skip if you're looking for peace and quiet and kind of chill. T-Rex Rainforest Cafe. We mentioned your kids are going to love them, but if you want peace and quiet, those are not the places to go. T-Rex has a meteor shower, like the planet's being attacked every few minutes, and Rainforest Cafe has thunderstorms, so definitely not quiet. And then places like Ohana and Whispering Canyon Cafe. Ohana's over there at the Polynesian Village Resort. Whispering Canyon Cafe is at Wilderness Lodge. These are both family-style restaurants. They are going to be loud. Whispering Canyon Cafe has some crazy antics that the servers do, and Ohana's got lots of Hawaiian music, and they've got coconut races going on, and so it's definitely not kind of a quiet, peaceful experience. It's a lot of fun, but it's not chill. So instead, you want to think about going to places like Grand Floridian Cafe and The Wave. Grand Floridian Cafe is at the Grand Floridian Resort. Obviously, The Wave is over at Contemporary. These are very quiet, chill restaurants. They are moderately priced and they're just sort of relaxed. So those are good options if you're looking for peace and quiet. And then, of course, those signature restaurants, the ones that you don't want to go to. If you're on a budget, those are the ones that are going to be a much more quiet and relaxed atmosphere. Takumi Te in Epcot, that is very, very hushed. And Victoria and Albert's, of course, in Grand Floridian. Places like that are going to be less loud and in your face. I think Tiffin's in Animal Kingdom is also a good option for this. All right, next category of restaurants you should skip. Maybe you are a picky eater. I am a picky eater, and so it's been quite a journey writing a food blog, but I'm getting much, much better with my palate. But if you're a picky eater, these are some places you're going to want to skip. But definitely look at the menu because picky eaters have different types of things that they don't like. You might love sushi as a picky eater, but you really, really hate like Chinese food. So think about your specific brand of pickiness and look at the menus before you go to any restaurants. But here are some that are sometimes eschewed by picky eaters. Places like Jiko or Sanaa over there in Animal Kingdom Lodge. These incorporate African cuisine. There's a lot of Ethiopian cuisine over at Sanaa. So these are places you want to look at the menu and see if they appeal. Spice Road Table or Marrakesh, places in the Morocco Pavilion in Epcot. Those are, of course, going to have Moroccan cuisine. So if that's not something that you are familiar with or not something that you enjoy the spices or the particular flavors there, then you're going to want to check that menu too. Over at the Japan Pavilion, Takumi Te, Tokyo Dining. These have a lot of sushi on the menu, other Japanese preparations. So if that's not something you're used to or comfortable with, you're going to want to check that menu. Now, I added Monsieur Paul to this list. This is classic, very upscale French cuisine. It's very, very expensive. So I am going to throw this on this list because if you don't love the menu and you still have to find something you can eat, you're going to be paying a lot for it. So if you don't enjoy what you're eating and you're paying a ton for it, you're going to have a bad taste in your mouth, literally and figuratively. So that might be one you're careful of. And then Skipper Canteen over there in Magic Kingdom. This is definitely the most accessible option for picky eaters, but it doesn't have a very large menu. And so there absolutely may not be something that your picky eaters can enjoy there. So check that menu. Now, if you are a picky eater, a lot of places in Disney World are going to be fine for you. So instead of those restaurants I just mentioned, you might want to look into places like Yak and Yeti, which does have Pan-Asian cuisine, but it also has burgers and ribs and things like that. So that's a good location for a large group with a lot of different palates. Beaches and Cream and Beach Club Resort, that's going to be burgers, fries, ice cream. That is a ice cream shop basically, so that's what you can expect there. Places like Via Napoli or Tony's Town Square, this is going to be pizza and Italian food, spaghetti, stuff like that, so that's usually something picky eaters can handle. Raglan Road, that's an Irish restaurant over there in Disney Springs. They have a huge menu, so there's going to definitely be something on that menu that you can eat, and of course they have burgers, they have soups, they have things like that. Although they do have, classic Irish dishes, they've got lots that you're going to recognize too. Grand Floridian Cafe and other moderately priced hotel table service restaurants. Those are good options for picky eaters because those have to be in those hotels in order to service a lot of different types of people. So those are going to be very tame menus. There's going to be lots of stuff on there that you can eat if you're a picky eater. And then, of course, counter service. Counter service in Disney World is going to be a lot more picky eater friendly because they have to service such a broad range of people. Now, some counter service locations like Satu'li Canteen are going to be unfamiliar food potentially for picky eaters, so you want to check those menus first. And if worst comes to absolute worst, that's a bad way to introduce this, you can always go to McDonald's. There is a McDonald's on Disney World property. You will have to drive there. They don't have buses that go there, but there is a McDonald's on property. And then, of course, don't forget you can always Uber Eats or DoorDash or something yourself food to your hotel. Next category of restaurants that you might want to skip. Maybe you're looking for something really unique in Disney World and you don't want just humdrum. You don't want stuff that are just generic theme park accessible food. Okay, no problem. We got you covered. So you want something unique? You're going to skip places like Cosmic Rays at Magic Kingdom, Crystal Palace at Magic Kingdom. These are just going to be standard, regular, kind of Denny's Perkins food. You know what I'm talking about? Like burgers and like steaks and chicken and pasta. Pizzafari Pizza Rizzo. Pizza Rizzo is over in Hollywood Studios. Pizzafari is in Animal Kingdom. They're basically the same restaurant, basically the same menu. Of course, they're not. I understand, but it's puffy pizza both ways. So that's not going to be something unique if that's what you're looking for in Disney World. Beaches and Cream, skip it if you want unique. They don't have unique there. They've, like I said, they got burgers, fries, ice cream. They've got, grilled cheese sandwich and tomato soup. So that's a very classic ice cream shop menu. So that's not going to be out of the ordinary. And then Plaza Restaurant in Magic Kingdom, you can skip that one too. That's sandwiches, salads, cakes, ice cream, stuff like that as well. So where do you want to go if you want something unique? Well, it depends on if you want unique atmosphere or if you want unique food. If you want a unique atmosphere, definitely Sci-Fi Dine-In has one of the most unique atmospheres in Disney World. That's over in Hollywood Studios. That's the one where you're sitting in a convertible car watching movies at a drive-in while you eat. 50s Primetime Cafe is a very unique atmosphere, but not very unique food, and that's of course in Hollywood Studios as well. Takumi Te is especially unique in Disney World because it's such a fancy upscale Japanese experience in the middle of a theme park. And then of course maybe you're into space food, something like Oga's Cantina, Ronto Roasters over there in Galaxy's Edge. That's definitely unique, things you're probably not going to get in too many other places. So check out the space food over there in Galaxy's Edge if you're looking for unique. All right, next category of restaurants you should skip in Disney World. In this case, maybe you're looking for something really convenient. You want something close. You don't have to travel too far to get to it. I'm just hungry and I want to eat now. All right, if that's you, then don't eat at these restaurants. Trails End over there in Fort Wilderness. It'll take you a while to get there no matter which direction you're coming from. The Turf Club at Saratoga Springs Resort. You got to drive all the way over there, take a bus all the way over there. Olivia's Cafe, and I think you're seeing a theme here. These are mostly restaurants in hotels that are kind of set out away from parks and not very close to anything else. So Olivia's Cafe is over there at Old Key West Resort. Boat Rights at Port Orleans Riverside. There's really no reason to go there unless you're staying there, right? Hoop-de-doo Review at Fort Wilderness. A lot of people want to get there, but it takes a long time to get there. So give yourself at least an hour to get there, especially if you're going by bus, because then you got to take internal buses at Fort Wilderness, and that's just a whole other adventure. And then you also don't want to try to eat someplace that is hard to get a reservation for, because that's of course not going to be convenient. Something like Oga's Cantina over there in Galaxy's Edge, it's practically impossible to get a reservation for that right now because the restaurant is social distanced and it's so small to begin with. So if you're in the middle of a park and you're thinking, I need something convenient, well, don't try to get a reservation for a restaurant that's been booked up for 2 months already, right? So places like Oga's Cantina, Cinderella's Royal Table, Be Our Guest Restaurant, those are not going to have reservations the moment of. Don't forget that you can look at your My Disney experience, say book a dining reservation, and check for what's available now. There's actually that walk-up wait list that you can get yourself on a walk-up wait list for a restaurant that's available now or kind of in the next hour. So you want to check that. That's the perfect place to go if you're looking for a convenient table service restaurant. Now, other places you can consider that are a little bit more convenient and do have reservations available. Don't forget the lounges, places like Tutto Gusto, Nomad Lounge in the parks. Those are no reservations accepted, so you just sort of walk up and see if they have tables available. Those can be very convenient, especially if they're there in the parks. Counter service is going to be super convenient, obviously. Don't forget with mobile order these days, though, you do want to think ahead because those mobile order pickup windows book up quickly. So wherever you want to eat counter service, try to get your order in early in the day so that you can choose the time pickup window that's most convenient for you. Now, in park or close by locations that are easy to get reservations for and easy to travel to, places like Spice Road Table and Les Halles over there in Epcot, those are super easy to get to. And usually, Les Halles obviously is a counter service location. Spice Road Table is table service, but they usually have tables available. And then, of course, those hotel restaurants that are close to the parks, the Wave, Kona Cafe, Grand Floridian Cafe, all very, very close. Monorail ride or walk to these from Magic Kingdom, and those will often have reservations midday because everybody's at the parks. Tony's Town Square is a good option in Magic Kingdom. It will often have reservations available. And of course, Whispering Canyon Cafe over there in Wilderness Lodge. That's a boat ride from Magic Kingdom, but it's still relatively convenient. Okay, the next group of restaurants you should skip in Disney World are the ones where you aren't going to see Mickey Mouse if you really, really want to see Mickey Mouse. So if your goal in Disney World is to eat with Mickey, then you're going to obviously want to skip the character meals that do not have Mickey. So Hollywood and Vine Breakfast does not have Mickey Mouse. They have a couple of the Fab Five. They've got Minnie and Goofy, and they've got Disney Junior characters, but Mickey does not come to Hollywood and Vine until lunch and dinner. Also, of course, Cinderella's Royal Table. There you're going to get a glimpse of Cindy right now. In the before times and in the after times, you'll probably be able to see multiple princesses, but no Mickey. And Be Our Guest Restaurant, the Beast wanders around his castle, but again, no Mickey. So if you want Mickey, you're going to want to choose character meals like Garden Grill, Topolino's Terrace, Hollywood and Vine Lunch and Dinner. Ravello at the Four Seasons is a good one to see Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy. And of course, you don't have to be staying at the Four Seasons to go to Ravello. It is a pricey valet cost, however, so just keep that in mind. But anyway, if you've got to see Mickey, then you're going to skip those restaurants without Mickey, obviously. All right, next list of restaurants you should skip is if you're not into seafood. If you don't want seafood, if you just want to stick to that landlubber menu, then you're going to want to avoid places like Coral Reef in Epcot, the Boathouse, and Paddlefish over there in Disney Springs, Flying Fish on the Boardwalk, and Blue Zoo over there in the Dolphin Resort. Now, of course, all of these restaurants are going to have things like steaks and chicken dishes, pasta. They're all going to have those, but that's obviously not going to be their specialty. Their specialty is seafood. That's what they're going to do the best. And so if you're going to these restaurants, you may end up having a great kind of landlubber meal, but if you're going to get steak, why don't you just go to a steakhouse, right? So these are not the restaurants you want to go to unless you have huge seafood fans in your family. All right, the next group of restaurants you should skip in Disney World are those national chain restaurants if you want something new. So if you want to go to Disney World and have unique food, stuff you haven't had before, stuff that you can't have in your hometown, then you're going to want to skip places like Rainforest Cafe. Of course, national chain restaurant Blaze Pizza, also a national chain restaurant, although beloved by the locals in Orlando. So if you're a big Blaze Pizza fan, there is one in Disney Springs. Planet Hollywood, you can find those in lots of big cities. Starbucks, of course, you're going to find Starbucks in all 4 parks, but you're also going to find it in your hometown. Teppanyaki, that's in Epcot's Japan Pavilion. It's a really fun teppanyaki restaurant, but so is Benihana. So if you've been to Benihana in your hometown, it's basically the same experience. So why not go someplace different that's completely unique to Disney World? And of course, McDonald's. McDonald's is on Disney property. Like I said, you can go there. It's over there by the All-Star Resorts. But most of us have McDonald's in our hometowns, so it may not be the best use of your time to go there when you're in Disney World. And the last group of restaurants you should skip in Disney World are those super fancy pants restaurants when you just want something casual. A lot of us go to Disney World to just wear shorts and a t-shirt and sneakers and go on rides and not have super fancy date night experiences, especially when we bring our kids with us. That's not always what we're looking for. So if you want casual meals, if you want chill experiences that are lower cost and more flexible, then you're going to want to skip places like Monsieur Paul in the Epcot France Pavilion, Takumi Te in the Japan Pavilion, Citrico's, Victoria and Albert's Narcoossee's, all of those over at the Grand Floridian, and of course other signature restaurants with dress codes. Lots of the signature restaurants do have dress codes, and that's not really publicized unless you buy our book or you do really significant research before you book those restaurants. So Victoria and Albert's, for example, you actually have to wear a dinner jacket to get in there. I went with a friend once and he was not wearing a dinner jacket and he had to wear some random dinner jacket that they gave him in order to go through the dining room. So that's something to take into account and be thoughtful about. If you don't want to have to pack your Sunday best in your suitcase, then you're not going to want to book these types of restaurants. Now, something that's notable that I do want to say in this section, a lot of the theme park restaurants that are signature restaurants are, of course, going to allow you to come in your theme park clothes. So that's going to be places like Hollywood Brown Derby, Le Cellier. Those are going to be okay if you're just wearing your shorts and your t-shirt, even if they are signature restaurants. However, places like Takumi Te, Monsieur Paul, you most likely can go in there dressed a little bit more flexibly, but those are just a little bit higher end and they are going to expect a little bit more. So if a signature restaurant is in a theme park, you can probably get away with your shorts and your t-shirt and your flip-flops, but some of them would prefer you stuck to that dress code, and definitely the signature restaurants outside of the parks are going to require that dress code. Now, a lot of you probably have experiences where you've gone to signature restaurants and you've worn your bathing suit and your flip-flops and everything's been fine. I'm sure that that's the experience that many people do have, but those dress codes are published. They are on the Disney World website, and so we always like to make sure that you're aware of that. All right, so there are the groups of restaurants you should totally skip in Disney World if you're looking for different types of experiences. I hope that's been helpful for you. I tried to add a few restaurants that you should consider if those are the kinds of things you're looking for. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about your favorite restaurants in Disney World and places you would recommend and not recommend. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.